Another surgery.
We are Popcorn, Piss, and Vinegar, giving you a raw take on movies, television, and pop culture. My name's Chris.
My name is Scott.
I am JB4.
How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right.
How are you doing?
I'm doing really good.
Yeah?
For those, of the 12 people that listen to this show, I got engaged last night. It was pretty awesome. Had a good time. Been having this thing planned for about 6 weeks, and I have to honestly say I'm shocked that she didn't find out. This was the one that was really the crazy fuck up, and I'll share this story real quick before we freestyle on the news here. But so I go there and I have the ring in a box. Well, I have it in the center console of my car, buried under a whole bunch of shit. So I had an iPhone charger, and I wanted to make sure that the phone was charged to where somebody could video it from my phone when the proposal went down. So in my car, you got the center armrest console, but then you got the little thing that's in the front, the little, it's kind of like in the stick shit. They give you like a little storage container. Right, so I just threw the iPhone charger in there. I mean, it's plain as day. Well, I'm on stage getting ready to drop, and I look at her, and I'm like, here's my keys. Can you go get the iPhone charger for me? It's in that front console piece in front of the stick shift. She went and dug in the armrest console, saw the box, and just kind of ignored it. Well, because she even told me, she's like, dude, I saw a ring box in there, but I didn't think anything of it. And I was like, holy shit. Jesus. Wow. That was like the whole thing spoiled up to the last minute. But everything went off perfect. She was excited. You can drop by PPV Guys on Facebook, and the Ginger here posted the video. So
yeah, and then there's, in the comments, John has the other side video, so you get to see it from both angles.
Yeah, you get to see it and all that stuff. And
there were like 15 cell phones there, all pointed at the stage. So I was like,
yeah, I think Not Real Radio. They also have video of it as well. Like you can see John filming at the same time.
If you listen to Not Real Radio tomorrow, Justin's going to be giving the recap of the engagement. So it's going to be fantastic. So.
I will say, Allie was crying. Afterwards.
Oh, was she?
Yes, she was.
She does
wiping some tears away.
She does have a soul. She's great.
That was your Christmas.
I'm sure that Zartome was crying too. He was crying from laughing his nuts off.
Well, it's good to know that the Ginger didn't eat either of their souls yet.
I've been on a diet.
All right. Well, look. Normally, our traditional thing is we kind of talk about news blurbs, but man, we had two monumental things happen in the movie industry, and we're just going to just split two topics today. The first one's going to be out of Warner Brothers. As you know, Wonder Woman is kind of like having meteoric success. I saw it this past week again. Went and saw it with my mom, and
funny recap story.
Yeah, definitely a funny recap story. I bust my mom's balls with like nerd stuff, and she doesn't have any clue what I'm talking about.
And what's cool is that like you bust your mom's balls, and she still has the mom capability to go, shut up, Chris.
Yeah, well, that was pretty much it. She said I have trouble differentiating the Justice League from the Avengers, but I know who the Justice League are because the people from Big Bang Theory dress up as them. And I'm like, dude, so you mean to tell me that you're a Marvel tard and you watch Big Bang? She looked at me and said, Christopher, what the hell are you talking about? But no, I saw Wonder Woman again, man. It held up the second time. It was great.
Did your mom like it?
She thought it was okay. It was one of these kind of things. I thought it was good, but it's not as good as some of the other stuff that I've seen. And it's great now because like they show the Spider-Man trailer, and I asked her, I was like, we want to see Spider-Man, and her answer was, we're invested at this point. We've seen them all, so we got to go. And I was like, well, then we have Thor in November. And my mom's like, oh, God, I don't like Thor. So, yeah, but it makes two of us, Mom. But anyway, I mean, moving along with the story here, look, they're approaching a $600 million worldwide gross. They did an article in Forbes that's saying that Wonder Woman now is actually going to domestically outgross Batman vs. Superman, Man of Steel, and Suicide Squad.
I think it's the slow burn movie. Good. It's one of those movies, again, like I said, I don't think everybody was rushing the first weekend. I think I mean, a lot of people were rushing the first weekend, but it's one of those where it's like, was it good? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
And people are. It's got a long tail. They're just going to keep going to see it till they have it, till they take it out of the theaters.
Well, they released it properly, and and that movie has another, well, now 2 weekends, counting this weekend and next weekend, to build upon that gross before it slowly burns out, because Spider-Man's going to come out on July 7th, and it's going to massacre everything.
Okay, so yeah,
Probably.
I think that's when it goes away, because look at the competition right now. The Mummy,
It failed.
Transformers,
It failed.
Cars
Did Transformers
3.
fail?
Transformers failed big.
Well, wait, I thought Transformers comes out this weekend.
No, it opened
Already
this
opened.
past weekend.
And I want to say that about this too. Cars 3 also is out. Did you know that?
They're saying Cars 3 is good.
I'm not saying it isn't good, but did you know that Cars 3 was out?
Yeah, I knew it was out, but I mean, but dude, I go to the movies
and it's-
every week, so I mean, I know.
Like, I forgot that I knew that it was out. Does that make sense?
My wife was like, "Hey, you want to go see Cars 3?" I'm like, "Is it out?" I didn't know it was out.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know it's Disney and they have the hype machine, but it's my job and I didn't know it was out. I don't think they're doing a slam dunk job of promoting this film.
Yeah, I don't even think
Ooh,
I
I
saw
don't
a
know.
trailer for it. I think I saw a teaser.
I've seen
for it,
2
like,
trailers,
here.
a teaser and a regular trailer, and both on the internet, and that was about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't remember a date.
I was somewhere. I forget. I was somewhere where they were playing commercials because I cut the cord. So I mean,
Right.
I forgot where I was watching television. I was watching something with commercials. Oh, I know what it was. I was watching the LSU baseball game over at my dad's house, and they had like 2 commercials that had product placement to Cars 3. So I mean, it's being promoted. I mean, it's Disney, you know. I mean,
But
I
Wonder
actually have
Woman is. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just about to say, the only reason I knew that Cars was even in play is because I took an Uber, and some dude had a GPS that had Owen Wilson going,
Nice.
"Take a ride up front." Chow.
so
What the hell?
So he had a Lightning McQueen
Exactly. and it
GPS.
was like,
Okay.
Yeah, it was like it was a Cars themed GPS.
But
That's
you know,
pretty
so
funny.
Wonder Woman is still holding strong, and it's facing these tentpole summer films, and it's still doing it, still making money.
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, Spider-Man's going to come out, and it's it's going to be the Christmas morning, But the thing with it is Wonder Woman's still going to hang around for a little while.
I think so.
And make some money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to do the numbers that it's been doing consecutively for the past couple of weeks, or so we think. But, I mean, I think that a lot of attention's going to go towards Spider-Man, but it's great, though. Look, they still have 2 weekends. Going back to Transformers the last night, it opened this past weekend, and
this weekend.
also, they say that the highest they base a lot of stuff on Thursday night totals now because they do the 7 o'clock premiere before the Friday that it actually comes out. They're saying that this
Scott night.
Yeah.
this is the lowest like box office take out of all of the Thursdays that they've had so far. The highest one came with the second movie. It was 8.8 million on a Thursday night, which is fucking huge. This one's only like 4.8. So it's only done like half the, close to half the numbers. But they're saying that it's going to be the same thing as the fourth one. It's going to be very lackluster in domestic sales, but it's going to kill overseas.
It's the Mummy.
But yeah, right. But and to bring that on, we were talking about the whole Mummy thing, and going into the news, I was, I love reading studio shit. It's just so amazing to me just to like see all this background stuff going on. Come to find out, man, like they only make like 25 to 35% on box office take. So let's say you release a movie in China and it does 100 million in China. You're only going to get 25 to 35 million off of that movie, off of that box office take. That's the reason why that domestic between America and Canada is so important, because it's all, it's all dollars in your hand.
You're talking about gross, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about gross.
Okay.
So I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, right. If it grosses 100 million, you're only going to net probably 25 to 35 million off of a foreign market release movie.
Okay.
Excuse me. Which I mean is crazy, man. I mean, so it just goes to show you the domestic is extremely important.
Yeah.
Now
So you put up. Let's say it's $100 million movie. You put up $100 million to get 35. That's still a good return on investment, right?
For international. But
So-
if you only make 20 local,
yeah, right.
you didn't make your money back.
Oh yeah.
Right, I mean, and that's exactly it. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty good return on investment, but here's the other thing also is, it's like somebody, let's say for instance, okay, Star Wars cost $200 million to make. Okay, Rogue One, for example, cost $200 million. Dude, think of the advertising they spent. They probably spent another $100 million just in advertising.
Probably.
So if you got a $300 million box office take, yeah, that's pretty good. But I mean, dude, they're in the business to make money with huge yield.
Right.
And I mean,
and it made $1 billion.
It made $1 billion worldwide, and I think, what was it, John? 600 domestic, was it?
Yeah. I'm just saying, if you make $1 billion overall. If that's your gross, and then you make 35% of that, that's $350 million. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to the studio thing, I think the thing with it is that they probably want to double their money. If they put out if they make
that's the 35% you're talking about. That's their money back,
right?
International. So that if they make 600 domestically. They made.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Their money back.
The domestic take is what they really want. Because the thing about let's break it for easy numbers. I'm making this movie for $100 million, and I'm spending $100 million in advertising, and then this movie ends up making $600 million. Dude, you made 100% profit. I mean, that's
right.
It's just crazy, man.
Exactly.
You know. So,
but what you don't hear about is the dozens of movies that, even if they're small little horror movies and you're taking a $10 million loss, you know, it's the whole kit and caboodle for the studios. If they're shitting the bed more often than they're knocking it out of the park, it's still a tough road.
Well, I mean, man, look at Paranormal Activity. That's a prime example. They cost the first one. That movie cost $15,000 to make.
Yeah,
that was it. $15,000.
And
they probably spent more money advertising it than it cost to make the movie.
The Blair Witch
that
situation.
Fucking movie made $180 million. I mean, dude, that's sick.
I saw it in the theater.
Yeah,
sick.
So did I.
Yeah.
So, but I'm moving on with the whole Warner Brothers thing, and with Wonder Woman, the success of this movie. Now you have the brass that's now standing up and like they're saying shit. So now you have Jeff Johns and you have John Berg, who are the two kind of like masterminds. Jeff Johns is kind of like the content manager, and John Berg is the is the studio guy.
He was put in charge after Batman versus Superman, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, after Suicide Squad, they came in and they revamped everything, and they gave Jeff Johns and John Berg the keys to the kingdom. So they go and they do Wonder Woman. Okay, well now John Berg comes out and he says, well, you know, we kind of like looked at things, and you know, we found that Batman versus Superman, it's too dark, and we're spending a lot of time deconstructing these heroes where we should just let them be who they are. I mean, that's a big statement.
That's pretty much what we say on every show.
Yeah. Well,
so
basically they did the right thing.
Maybe they're listening.
They waited until a movie that had their fingerprints on it got released, and it did so much better than everything else that we were all bitching about. And they basically are now comfortable peacocking a little bit. You know,
I mean, it's good to admit that they're wrong in that the direction they want to go. I mean, I guess it takes a success to realize, oh, this is what we really need to do. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel like they already had a success in that being Marvel. They knew it. They saw the Marvel formula on screen. They had, I mean, Marvel's been doing this like realistically since 2008 with Iron Man. The success of that,
I'd say realistically since 2000 with
I don't
the
count
X-Men.
But I'm saying like real success with the Iron Man stuff, and then moving forward, I'm saying like where they're going with their shared universe. So they had that template out there. All they had to do was copy it. So shame on them for not copying it.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. You say shame on for not copying, but I tell you, Wonder Woman, it's got all of the basic bones that every superhero movie typically has. But I tell you, though, man, it's got a different look. It's got a different feel.
It does, but I'm saying for like Batman versus Superman and even Man of Steel,
the universe rollout.
I liked both of those films, but if they're going to complain about what they did, they should have been looking outside and saying we could borrow this stuff and do it. Yeah. I mean, well, this is all the stuff they're saying. It's like,
but look at it this way, Scott. No, listen. So you got Chris Nolan that makes the Batman movies, and they stand on their right. You look at The Dark Knight, there's no fucking Marvel movie like The Dark Knight.
Okay, then why didn't they copy that?
That's what they tried to do with Man of Steel. They sat there and that's what basically Chris Nolan did. He said, I'm going to deconstruct and rip Batman down to Bruce Wayne and start it all over again and give you this kind of mock realistic look of this character that exists in this world.
The only difference is they weren't going for the shared universe future. Nolan was doing just a standalone. He was doing Batman.
I'll put it to you this way. Yep. If they'd have been Superman versus Batman with Christian Bale's Batman, that movie would have done so much more money. And if the Nolans had stayed involved as writers. The problem is, and it just occurred to me as you were talking about it, that not only was Zack Snyder just borrowing a lot of imagery from already established comics free of context, but he was also borrowing Nolan's formula with Batman versus Superman without understanding it. He was just like, he deconstructed with Batman, and he worked with them on Man of Steel, which was the least shitty Zack Snyder movie of that whole bunch. And I think he was like, I get it, I got it, I don't need any help. I just need a lot of darkness and mad.
Well, I think that's the thing. You know, so they have a shared universe over at Marvel. I mean, dude, anybody can come in there and say, okay, well, look, we're going to have a shared universe and we're going to put our own spin on it without copying Marvel. I think, really honestly, they looked at, Chris Nolan was the executive producer of Man of Steel.
Right.
And they said from the beginning that was going to be a shared universe. There is Easter eggs all over that fucking movie.
Yep.
And dude, shit like... I'm sitting there watching Man of Steel and looking at stuff. I'm like, I can't believe they put that in there. Shit, that's so small. There's references to Booster Gold. There's references to Blue Beetle. There's all kinds of shit. And, you sit there and you look at that, and I think that's really what they wanted. They say, we want Dark Knight with a Superman emblem on it. And that's what it came down to. And Zack Snyder, look, he did Watchmen. Honestly, I don't think Watchmen's a bad movie.
I love that movie.
I think for what it did... to try to follow the source material and to spin it at the end to give a kind of more modern, digestible ending to the audience.
They just turned a octopus into a bomb.
Right.
That's not.
But dude.
But I think the TV show is going to be great too. I think the Lindelof Watchmen HBO show is going to be
which
awesome.
by the way, that was announced. It's announced that Watchmen is being redeveloped into a television series for HBO. It's going to be done by the guy who did Lost and The Leftovers.
Here's as close to a compliment as I can give Zack Snyder, is that I actually think that the movie was so well done that I'm just sort of like, why bother? Like I'm sort of...
Because I think HBO will do it right.
I think that's how it should have been done from the beginning.
Yeah,
it should have been.
I agree with that.
Look, if I was sitting in the chair at HBO and say, "Hey, look, man, we're going to come out with a Watchmen series. Okay, this is easy. We're going to do a mini series. It's going to be 12 episodes. You have an hour and a half per episode. Take issue 1, make that for TV. Take issue 2, make that for TV. Because Watchmen was a 12-issue series.
Right.
But on with John Berg, he gives that information, but then swoops in Jeff Johns, and Jeff Johns says, well, we have a kind of a forward motion now of what we want to do. We had Joss Whedon come in, and we want Josh to be an ensconced member of this team. So they want Joss Whedon in. They said, when we brought Joss in, we had the big board of everything that we want to do and everything that we want to release. And when Joss came in, he looked at the board and he said, y'all are seriously going to do a Batgirl movie? I said, yeah, it's in the plan. He said, Batgirl's my jam. I'm on it.
Right.
So they gave him Batgirl as his choice. And dude, who better than coming there and kind of like, finish off this movie?
So I think the difference between what they're doing and what Marvel doing is, I think DC, and it may be the wrong answer, but just like DC gave Zack Snyder keys to the kingdom, they're giving Josh Whedon keys to the kingdom, but he already has an established reputation.
He wrote the formula for shared superhero.
That's what I'm saying.
Team movie,
and I think
the
reason he's not with Marvel, which we all know, is that they kind of took the keys to the kingdom away from him because they already had their direction.
Yeah.
And I think if he can come in and give DC the formula direction that we've all been talking about, I think they got it.
With some improvements. There are,
all they got to do is do better than Wonder Woman.
Right.
Do better than Wonder Woman, and you're on your way.
And poor Joss was patient zero for like the bad Avengers movie.
Yeah.
You know, Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's got some notes to help them avoid.
I think Age of Ultron is what ran him off of that studio without question.
Yeah.
Because I think that they just walked in there and said, hey, look, make this movie. Well, this is what I want to do. Fuck that. We need you to make this movie.
Right.
Which brings us into our next show topic.
You are listening to Popcorn, Piss, and Vinegar.
Television.
Movies.
Pop culture.
Keep up with the latest news from Luke Skywalker all the way to Batman.
From Netflix to the CW.
And all the news in between.
Please subscribe and rate us on iTunes.
Or stream our episodes from PPVGuys.com.
You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at PPVGuys.
Check out our friends Not Real Radio at NotRealRadio.com for our segment Not Real Movie News.
Should you listen to more? Yes. Will you agree? Maybe.
Jury's out.
Indeed.
Thank you for listening.
And action.
So our next show topic is we're talking about directors that take over from other directors. Bombshell news. Philip Lord and Chris Miller, who were assigned to direct the Han Solo movie, they began principal photography like 4 months ago.
January, right?
Yeah, like January. They started filming this movie. They were 3 weeks out before they were going to end, and they got fired. I mean, that's fucking crazy. Immediately, they wasted no time. Immediately when they canned, they said, look, they both sides came out and said, look, it was creative differences.
Right.
This is what it is. You know, neither of us had agreement in our style, so we're both going to move on from the project, you know, part ways and all that stuff.
We wish each other well.
Blah, blah, all that. Well, they swoop in immediately and they announce Richie Cunningham, Ronnie Howard as the director, which I 100% agree with. I think it's a very, very good move. Yeah. He's from the Spielbergian, Lucasian school of filmmaking. He's old school. He's a system guy. I read into something, and they talked that they have Directors Guild rules.
Right.
What happens is that if you have somebody currently working on staff, you can't promote them to the director's chair. If that rule was abolished, I guarantee you Lawrence Kasdan would have moved on to direct this movie. But I think Ronnie Howard's going to come in. He's going to talk to Lawrence Kasdan, and he's going to do what Lawrence Kasdan wants him to do.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen.
Howard style.
He's going to be a puppet director for Lawrence Kasdan, which, I mean, they're very similar. I mean, if you got the Lawrence Kasdan directed movies I'm familiar with right off the top of my head are
he did our Dreamcatcher also. That was another. That was kind of like the.
I think that was the last one he did. But what was the Western with Kevin Costner?
Oh, Silverado. God, that
Great
movie's
film.
the shit. It's awesome. And I mean, the stuff that guy's written, man. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, The Big Chill, Body Heat, Silverado. I mean, he's Hollywood royalty.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people right now are really pissed off, which for easy and also to incite fanboy rage on the internet, because I love busting balls. I don't call them Philip Lord and Chris Miller. I call them the Lego guys, which everybody gets pissed off at that.
Well, they're also the 21 Jump Street guys.
Yeah, but the Lego guys sounds something more associated with a child's toy.
Yeah.
So
not necessarily.
That actually film
either.
was really good. So good enough that they did a Batman as well.
Yeah, and okay, so the Lego movie
very successful directors.
Okay, so very successful directors, but when you want to incite fanboy rage, you call them the Lego guys, and that pisses everybody off, which that's all I care about. So the Lego guys, everybody now is in their dreams have been shattered because the Lego guys have been fired from the Han Solo movie. So this is what I have to say about this whole situation. I agree with firing these guys if they are not going to film what the studio wants. Rogue One, whether you love it or you hate it.
I hate it.
Okay, Scott, we know.
But the stuff you hated, I don't think
the stuff you hated basically makes your opinion invalid. Mm-hmm. So anyway, look. So
continue.
So what it comes down to is Rogue One. Whether
I'm giving you a break today because I know you had a very special night, so I'm kind of easing up on my.
Oh, you don't have to ease up on me.
Right,
shit, man. I'm tough. So
put
look,
my big boy pants on then.
Rogue One, whether you love it or hate it,
Oh, I hated it. I'm not paying attention anymore.
It did a masterful job of attaching seamlessly to A New Hope.
Yes, it did.
It seems to me that they want the same thing for Han Solo. What the rumor is coming out of the camps are Lord and Miller, the Lego guys, wanted to do a spin of making Han Solo, Lando Calrissian, and all the associated characters something like you would see in 21 Jump Street or the Lego movie, something that's kind of more snarky and comical. Lawrence Kasdan sits there and says, well, look, Han Solo, man, we're telling a story that leads up to A New Hope, and he's not really funny. He's kind of more sarcastic, and he's really a selfish kind of guy, and we're not getting that from what you guys are doing. Now, they didn't figure that out earlier, but
I don't.
Well, yeah,
it's shame on them for not realizing that was we hired these guys. Didn't you look at their resume before you hired them?
The thing is that
it's Edgar Wright. I mean, Edgar Wright just came out and said the same thing. Like, it's funny because they just interviewed him because of Baby Driver, and he pretty much gave the same speech that Lord Miller gave.
Yeah, it's
recently.
Basically, it wasn't just principal photography they were involved in. They developed the idea under Kennedy's supervision. So, I mean, did you not see what they did? Did you not watch? I mean, you hired them because of these movies that you watched.
Right. They didn't just let them go in the corner and make a movie. I'm sure they were very supervised.
But Kasdan wrote the story in the script, though. And, I mean, he wrote it in mind of it being like this. It's just these guys came in, and I think that they wanted them because they're a name. I mean, dude, they're gold. Those dudes have only directed, like 4 movies, and all of them have been fucking rocking.
Yeah.
Here's the next question. If they can't get Zemeckis, does Warner Brothers go back after them to do The Flash?
I thought so,
because
too.
they were
They're
originally
already talking to him.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Apparently
fucking awesome.
They literally were talking to them.
See that? I think that they're a great fit for something like that.
I agree, too.
I think that's wonderful. And that they can still go and retain their blockbuster thing,
Yes.
But now so we beat on all that shit. Now let's talk about Lucasfilm itself.
Okay.
I'm not excited about this Han Solo movie to begin with. I'm getting very fucking tired of them going and attaching shit to these old movies. If you're going to do standalone movies, there is a galaxy with a history written in their former non-canonized novel series, comics, and all that shit that stretches back for 25,000 years. Mm-hmm. Why can't you go do something with all that peripheral shit instead of keep hanging on the original characters?
Why can't they do something with the new characters? Why can't they develop new characters that they have just established in Episode 7 and that we're going to see again in Episode 8?
I don't even think they need to do that. I think that they can bounce off and do something entirely new and then inject those characters in cameos.
What I was gonna say. Agreed.
But here's the thing, though. With Star Wars now, or Kathleen Kennedy in particular, God, dude, the internet's so fucking stupid. Does Lucasfilm need a change on top? Fuck no, it doesn't need a change on top. Look at Disney, okay? They have 2 very interesting franchises. They have 2 things that have been ensconced in fucking culture and pop culture for nearly 70 years with comic books, and then 40 years with Star Wars. Now with Marvel, you have Kevin Feige. He's a guy who kind of is this kind of like go-getter, I'm going to develop this new thing for audiences. Even though we've had these comic characters for all these years, I'm going to transport this stuff to film. And I'm going to kind of start this whole new wave of a pop culture craze. Now you have Star Wars that's been rooted in pop culture for 40 years. You're talking about the woman they put in charge is responsible for Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Schindler's List. Dude, on down the line. She knows how to make big fucking movies. And she's the right person. But they have got to make a decision on what they want to do. This is the second time they've had trouble with they had a big crisis with Rogue One. They have a big crisis with this now. She needs to sit down and like shit and get off the pot. I mean, the standalone universe has given us the opportunity to kind of spread our wings and do something different and creative with the Star Wars universe. That's an untrue statement.
Correct.
I mean, look, if that's the case, go hire Ron Howard every time. If you wanted to hook to the original shit and honor that material.
I got to be honest with you. I think the problem is that Kathleen Kennedy, all these blockbusters that we've been talking about are based on a system that was entirely different in terms of pop culture sensibility and what have you. And the directors that she worked with over time, if you work with anybody a long enough time, you develop a telepathy with them.
Right.
You're able to kind of fill in blanks. And J.J. Abrams worked for Steven Spielberg. Okay.
Right.
Rian Johnson is cut from that same cloth. I think that these other filmmakers, where they brought him in, I think this happens in relationships all the time. It's like they know what I'm saying.
They don't.
And no, we're going to give you free reign because you understand the property. And they're like, okay, well, this is what we want to do. And then it isn't until millions of dollars in that she's like, that isn't what I meant. You're fired.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, it's a communication issue. I truly think that because Episode 8 went off without a hitch, except for Han Solo or Harrison Ford breaking his leg. But
Episode 7, you mean?
Episode 7, right? So, and it sounds like Episode 8 went real well, too. So it's just these properties that are associated with the older property that she was front and center on. It's maybe you're right. Maybe these movies aren't such a good idea,
Well, I don't think that they're a bad idea. I think what it comes down to is that they need to be coherent in what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to sit there and say, if this is what I want, then we need to go get the right people to do it. And it's going to be the people who are cut from that mold. I mean, even another guy who's established that, Joss Whedon now has his guys that have kind of branched off from him. Mm-hmm. You had the guy who was the guy who wrote what's the name of the movie? The Cabin in the Woods.
Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Drew Goddard. He's a
yeah.
Whedonite kind of guy. He comes in from all that shit. And I think that's it. If you're going to do that, they just need to make a decision on what they want to do.
Right.
But I think that if they give it a little bit of leeway and they say, well, look, we want to go out there and we actually want to do something that kind of gives the directors a little bit more control and they can kind of spread their wings and put their spin on something. Just don't attach it to these original trilogy. Do something entirely new. That's what I think they need to do.
So here's a question for you. Seeing that they brought in Richie Cunningham to do this film, like this is going to be a big film, obviously, at this point. Mm-hmm. It's a Han Solo film. So we all know that there's no sequel to Rogue One that they could put out. We already saw it. If this film does well, and it will most likely do well, do they put a sequel out to the Han Solo film?
Well, it's rumored that Alden Ehrenreich, the guy who's playing Han Solo, he signed to a 3-picture deal. So
that's a terrible idea.
Well, why is it a terrible idea,
Because
Scott?
I don't want, like you said, like we just said for the past 15 minutes, why are they even doing this? Why don't they just go and work with what they got?
We're nerds. Yeah. If somebody, Scott, if you sat there and said, I think I'm going to buy into that fine Han Solo film, and that fine Han Solo film made $2 billion, and you got 1% of that, Lord, please make another fucking Han Solo movie.
Yeah.
Make 10 Han Solo movies.
I want them to be successful.
Fucking
and it worked for Rogue One. So, and I have a feeling that once they get into post, they're probably going to keep more of the Lord and Miller takes than they're letting on.
They certainly are, and that's what Ron Howard even said in an interview, because he came out and like said his big thing, and he said, "Look, I've been a Star Wars fan since it came out." He said, "I love the hell out of it. I'm honored to be involved in it." He said, "I am going to retain everything of Miller and Lord's vision that I can." So he's going to use some stuff, and they're also saying that according to the DGA, when you watch the end credits of this movie, it's going to say directed by Chris Miller, Philip Lord, and Ron Howard.
Good.
So all three of them will get credit based on, because I mean they've done so much work on it.
And again, it's even if I would think almost if the guild hadn't had that rule that Star Wars is a class enough franchise that they would still insert their names in it anyway.
Well, and here's
it's Star Wars. It's not like.
Here's the thing about editing improv. This is something I know a lot about. I went to Second City. I worked with a lot of improv actors. And you have to give them latitude to do what they do, and you can get magic. And that's what Lord and Miller were doing. And I think for as much shit as George Lucas gets, for you can write this shit, George, but you can't say it.
Yeah, you can't say it.
And everyone sort of jokes at his expense. I think that Kathleen Kennedy and Lawrence Kasdan sort of picked up that script is gospel virus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think I think they were allergic to them experimenting with ideas.
I think the other thing too is that there was so much shell shock from those 3 prequel movies, and they're doing prequels now.
Right.
They want to make sure that they honor the hell out of this franchise without pissing off the fan base.
Right.
Now, to dream a little bit, because this is how PPV started. It started with dreaming of what we would do as studio heads and putting shit out there. If I had any say in Lucasfilm, and I could go and rewind this situation, and I had Kathleen Kennedy's ear, this is what I would tell her.
You would tell her to come on the show?
Yeah. I would tell her that. But what I would also tell her is, hey, look, if we want to stretch out and do something, and we want to tie some characters to the original series, and you want Lord and Miller, why don't we do this? Why don't we tell a story about Lando Calrissian and his adventures? We'll cast Donald Glover as Lando. He'll have the Millennium Falcon as his ship. At the end of the movie, he loses the Millennium Falcon into a card game. And just like they're doing over at Marvel, let's hire Ford. We'll de-age him with computers, make him look young. And Lando will lose the card game to Harrison Ford playing Han Solo.
Is that not in the film that we're about to see?
No.
No?
I'm sure that he's going to lose it, but the thing with it is that you're talking about a movie that's focused on Han Solo. I'm talking about a movie that's focused on Lando Calrissian
that ends
as being
with
the main character. Him being the main character, and what's great is that he doesn't really have an established canon now that all this shit's been wiped away. So you could go with him, and I mean, man, you could do some awesome shit. I mean, man, you make a card shark and a scoundrel and a smuggler and a fucking rogue, and I mean, it's cool because that character, he's such a fan favorite. But I mean, giving him his own movie, plus on top of that too is, man, look, we will have an African American actor leading a Star Wars movie, which is fucking awesome.
It would be
That's
awesome.
Fantastic.
I bet you it opens with the card game.
I couldn't even tell you. I don't even know.
I think it's a great idea for a fan idea, like you said, to dream, but I don't know that would be a successful film, only because if you say Lando Calrissian and you say Han Solo, who would probably sell more tickets?
Right, but then there's the other side of it too is we're going to make a movie called Rogue One. It's not going to have any Jedi characters, and it's going to be a war movie, and it's going to have all new characters, sans a couple of little cameos from characters you know. $1 billion. And I think that's it. It's Star Wars, man. They stamp Star Wars on it, and they show up. I guarantee you this Han Solo movie, it's going to do $1 billion.
Oh, yeah.
Going to do $1 billion easy.
Easily.
Yeah.
Probably going to do more than Rogue One.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I think so. I mean, I'll probably hopefully like it better.
Well, they don't have any CGI enhanced.
No, they thank the Lord
cameos.
we're getting all the young guys to do young guy roles. And, I love Donald Glover. So I think that's...
One other piece before we close the show out. Apparently, and they haven't said anything else about, like, they haven't gone into detail with this, but Alden Ehrenreich, who's playing Han Solo, said that he was going privately to Kathleen Kennedy and saying, I'm kind of not feeling stuff and all that. So they're saying that he was kind of pro Lucasfilm.
Wow.
So
what?
Yeah, that's what one of the interviews
that he
alluded to.
He wasn't digging on Lord Miller's style.
Yeah, he was kind of saying, this is not really what they're having me do is not true to really what I'm reading. So
the plot thickens.
So yeah, I mean that's it. I don't know. I think even though it's a shitty situation,
it is.
I think that based on the information of what Lucasfilm wants to do, because it's their property, they've made the right decisions. That's where it stands. And Lord and Miller, let me tell you, man, they're going to land on their feet with no problem.
Oh yeah,
especially it's Edgar Wright Part 2.
It is.
But yeah, I mean, it's exactly what it is.
Are we looking forward to Baby Driver? By the way,
yeah, I am.
Yep, I'm going to see it on Tuesday.
Hell
I can't
yeah!
Did it open this weekend?
Yeah, they're opening it up. It's it opens on Wednesday, but they're doing an early premiere on Tuesday, so I'm going to see that.
Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday night movie crew is going to check out. Check out some Baby Driver.
Be joining you on that one.
I hope you do, man.
Yeah.
That'd be great. So, we got anything to add, fellas, about the drama here? Or?
Just congratulations once again.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Coming nuptials.
Yeah, well, you can send me a engagement gift by going over to iTunes and subscribing. You could also give us a 5-star rating. If you're a true PPV fan, you can also leave us a review. If you're a true, Metri Bra, podcast guy, and you love all the shit, you can do that favor for us, Scary Thoughts, and Not Real Radio. Thanks for listening. End scene.